once we crossed the red line to the country, it was like game on, like we're ready to do this. And driving hundreds of miles in, it was like the Super Bowl, as you said. Like, we are here to do it.
The U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats.
I prayed for him. I prayed for them all. You know, as soon as that happened, prayed for them all. And it was like, let them come home safe.
As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the fourth and fifth generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats.
My formation was on 4 different frequencies, trying to find our tankers because we didn't take off in the exact order that we planned and the timing, and everybody's just trying to find their tanker to be able to make push timing.
As you take off into the night, you know, dozens of tankers out there trying to find their formation.
Seriously, where is everybody? They were supposed to be 30 minutes late, and then all of a sudden I hear, like, oh, they're on time.
The plan required the 55th to split up and operate from 2 separate locations, and do it on short notice. Unfamiliar runways and new procedures always inject chaos. The little things that you took for granted now require you to think a little bit harder and focus a little bit more attention on something you previously did not have to consider.
I had this vision of like, all right, this would be my bombing Iran brief to my 4-ship, right? And I think we had like 15 minutes to brief. That means like we had been planning this for several days, so the guys knew what they were doing and what they were looking for. But it was a rather rushed brief where we just essentially covered the pet timings, you know, and the fuels and what we were going to end up shooting. I was like, all right, guys, any questions? And I think the other thing I covered was like, hey, you know, you guys can gab tonight, but you know, there's only 6 F-16s and they're all flying. So, you know, if you're not there, you know, it's going to hurt everybody. And, you know, you looked everyone in the eyes and you're like, you knew that no one was going to gab that night.
We literally had no idea how to get to the jets. We just hoped the person driving the van knew. And he was kind of questioning if he even knew how to get there. So we're like, I think we're a little late. Anybody know how to get to the airplanes? I was like, I think so. So dead silent in the van, except for the guy driving, who had whatever he was playing on his like radio. Don't even remember what it was. It was something completely obnoxious.
Guys driving us out to our jets, which are kind of parked far away, and I just remember him just like blasting the music, and I don't think he had like any idea like where we were flying that night. He was just like stone cold silence from the pilots in the jet as this music just blasting through this base that we're driving.
I think he was a senior airman. He had no idea what was going on. He was like playing like Eminem. He was, you know, having a good time, and we were all just sitting in the back like, man, this is tough.
Get ready, strap in. Last thing I typically do is put on my helmet, and I try and take this helmet. I'm like, this one's way too small. Like, and I look over, I'm like, luckily I know that mine's typically labeled with a 1, and I don't know what Cash's is labeled with, but it definitely wasn't mine. I'm like, oh shit, I don't have my helmet, and somebody else is gonna put on a helmet that's probably way too big now. Luckily it was Cash, so now this crew chief that had never launched a jet, I'm like, I need you to go find my helmet. I think he's got it. And luckily we swapped helmets back.
Smalls and I had swapped helmets accidentally in AIF because, you know, we're in a different location, so all of our gear had been kind of swapped around. So it's like, dude, you gotta give me my helmet. We're like strapped into the jet by this point. So we're just crew chiefs are throwing our helmets to us, right? We're like, all right, that's not a great start. You know, we probably need to make sure we got the right helmet.
That was just one of the many things that you then just have to be like, okay, what's next? What's the next fight I'm in? Is it hitting JFIS Star 2? Is it hearing or realizing that I'm not even on the right frequency? So probably not passing a flood ride because I'm not even on the right freak for quite a bit of my ground ops. And then trying to just catch up in, to the SA bubble that I have at the time, and then move into the next fight. And then yeah, once we lit the burner, the plan was the plan, and it's just how do I Play-Doh myself into being helpful and not hurtful.
Maintenance is the backbone of the flight line, and on the night of the strike, they might not know exactly where these jets were heading, but they felt the tension shift in the air. The usual pre-flight joking was gone, and as they strapped the pilots into the cockpits and offered a final handshake, they recognized the raw severity of the moment.
That evening, it really struck a chord with me, and I realized, like, holy cow, like, something is going to happen, and I'm not even sure if all of my aircraft are going to come back or not,
I prayed for them. I prayed for them all. As soon as that happened, prayed for them all, and was like, let them come home safe.
Because usually, like, they'll come out and they're joking and laughing and having a good time, but for the most part, these guys were very, like, straightforward. Was like, let's get to the point. We got something we got to do.
In combat, the enemy always gets a vote, but often the first major hurdle isn't the adversary. It's the sheer friction of executing a massive global strike in the dead of night. Coordinating an operation of this scale demands intense situational awareness and real-time flexibility just to get to the starting line. And this night was no different.
Sometimes there are rules that you just kind of have to bend and get around and do it anyways. And so we did.
I wouldn't even say it was bent. It was just
It was blatant out the door. Yeah, if we're gonna be talking about it, he kicked it right out the door, and it was awesome.
They're not letting people take off because they're like, no, we don't have. This is more than normal, and we're overwhelming civilian ATC. Not because, that's just my opinion on it. What actually happened, who knows? But anyway, so then we have to make the decision of, are we just gonna take off without clearance? And so, to what Cash was saying about the tankers being homies, it was like, okay, we're going to take off without clearance. And I was like, man, I hope that everybody else is on board with this game plan, because without these tankers, we're not going to make it there. And so, tanker takes off, I take off, and then the rest of the tanker train just keeps going without clearance. And it's like, sweet, we got there.
Kind of different stepping stones of thought, but then as soon as you get out to the jet, and then honestly, really, as soon as that burner lights, you can't afford to think about anything else other than what you're about to go do and execute the mission as per the brief. And so you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to focus on my ground ops. I'm going to focus on starting up this jet. I'm going to focus on my taxiing. I'm going to focus on getting everything ready that I need to go employ with the wingman next to me.
I don't know when or if airborne I fully processed that. I wouldn't say processed. I would really just say that there was no change. It was a mez. It wasn't like I looked at it as like, holy shit, we're flying into Iran. It was like, okay, here are previously known SAMs. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, I remember this from Yemen, flying over populated areas might not be the best thing. Let's not overfly this city, and just looking outside. And that's really all it was just sanitizing the next area that we needed to sanitize. I don't really feel like I looked out and was like, man, I can't believe this is Iran.
You cross the line and all you hear if you have your hot mic turned up is your kind of own breathing. And there aren't many radio calls going as you're pushing to the target points.
Seeing the cities, seeing the lights, you could throw your targeting pod down and you see just cars going about their daily life. They have not a single clue about what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes, and then we'll be gone.
I swear, I'm looking at this thing, you start to see peek over the horizon, and you're like, all right, what is that over there? Because it's zero line of sight, just like the slimmest corner of the moon starting to rise. You're like, all right, what's going on right now? You know, like I don't see any emissions on my hat. There's no RWR spike right now. You know, like what's going on? And this thing just keeps rising, and I swear to God, it looks like a missile launch. You know, it looks like a freak. And I know everyone in the formation's looking at this thing like, what is that? Or they, and then there, you know, my wingman's like, Sam for this moon, right? And then it's like, it's probably 5.5 seconds later, then it's like you start to see like the discoloration of the moon, and everyone's like, oh, that guy's fucking moon right now, you know? And it's like, just disregard, you know? And then it's just back to, you know, radio silence as we continue inbound.
There was one point we called out like a SAM launch, but it was the moon, like cresting. But I swear to God, it looked like a smoke trail, the way it was like a crescent moon.
Then it gets not quiet as people start employing, and you look out and you see the employments happening, and it's a really dark night, but you can see every employment going on and just watching all of the things happening. It was impressive. It was cool is not the right word because of kind of the severity of the situation, but it was pretty amazing to see everybody just executing their roles the way that they needed to. Once we were there and once we were doing the thing, it was not flawless, but almost flawless. Like there were mistakes happening, but just watching the entire package come together, execute the mission that the president ordered us to execute, and then getting home safely.
So my first harm shot was in theater that night. My second harm shot, you guys will all make fun of me for it, caused me to have a compressor stall. Yeah, when you fly through your own jet wash, basically, our single engine doesn't really like that. Luckily, we had and some of the guys in the guard had kind of brought it up in terms of when they had shot some down at Wesset, they had seen something similar because it looks weird, and it's crazy how it sparkles as the rocket motor actually is ignited and leaving your jet. But yeah, I ended up hitting that jet wash based off of how it kind of made a turn and compressor stall.
Was it on this night?
Oh yeah, engine worked just fine, and I had to just brain dump that. Completely didn't even think about it because there wasn't anything I could do in a single engine. Where am I going to go land?
You know, we're shooting. Our plan was plus pets that night. So you start to see F-16s just start shooting their harms into all the locations that we suspected that there might be SAMs to protect our B-2s, which I think was a pretty cool sight to see.
We start employing, and then we have 3 or 4, 5 minutes or so of, time left before we need to leave. And we hear over the radios everything is going well. No one's being shot at. I think they launched some enemy fighters, but they were a couple hundred miles away, so not a factor. I mean, it was very cut and dry. We go in, we employ, and then we turn around and leave. And then, other formations are doing their thing behind us, pass, and now it's just no power, book it to get out. And you're really hoping that nothing happens now, because the last thing you want to do is get shot, in the ass. So everyone's really on edge, leaving, checking out everywhere in front of us, behind us now, and it's I just need to get to that red line. And you see it coming up on your scope, and it's however many hundreds of miles away, and then it's 50 miles away, and it's 25, and it's I'm right there. I just need to get over this red line, and it'll be fine. And we did, thankfully.
As the strike package began to egress, a quiet uncertainty settled back at the bases. Those left behind wondered if a looming threat of an Iranian retaliatory strike was on the horizon. But for the pilots, the immediate hurdle was survival. Get back across the border in jets that were almost out of fuel.
Crossing the line back and just at least not being in hostile territory anymore, it was okay, there's another chance to breathe. There's another win done. Move on to the next, get our gas, get home, and see what happens when we get back.
I got on the boom with 1.7, and I was pretty scared. I'll tell you what, I've never been that low, I mean, here, yeah, you can go down to 1.2 for recovery fuel and whatnot, but like 1.7 in the AOR is insane. So we kind of just snuck in on the wing of the tanker. Like we turned off all of our, transponders and everything, and we told the tanker, like, this is our game plan. We're gonna fly as close to you as possible for the next however many 100 miles. He's like, yeah, sure, dude, that sounds great.
It literally crossing the line the opposite direction, trying to find a tanker, and then trying to figure out where we're going. Again, because of the short notice and how this all kind of transpired is, we've got people taking off without clearance. Did they burn bridges that we now can't go back to, that same location? Or are we now having to fly somewhere, but we don't know exactly where to? And it was kind of odd because it didn't seem like anybody had an answer or direction. So it goes exactly back into what Scar was saying, is like, somebody just make a decision and this is where we're going.
I mean, he got on the tanker with like 1,500 pounds, right? So it's like, it's like only 300 pounds above our, just normal recovery fuel. And that's with the tankers moving forward to grab us from the border of Iran. So again, you talk about the coordination. So we're doing all the strikes, and I haven't even had an opportunity to like talk to the people that run the coordination for the tanker.
And I've thought about it a lot, but that landing I had was probably the best landing I think I've ever had in my entire career, ever. Like there's a point I didn't even know I was on the runway because it was such a light landing, and I was rolling down the runway. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually on the ground, landed, taxied away, and then I kind of let go of the controls a little bit as we're taxiing, and I just look at my hands and they're just shaking. Like everything up to that point, like we were focused, we were done, not acknowledging what was happening yet, just staying focused on the mission, getting the landing out of the way, and then taxiing clear of the runway. And then it hits you and you're just looking at your hands and they're just shaking.
As soon as we land, make it a good landing, please. So like, don't go around or anything. Get back to chocks, de-arm, shut down, and then we're going to the ops building as fast as we can. We don't want to stay outside, especially on the flight line. That would probably be, a prime target, all that metal out there. So yeah, I think there was an urgency to get back and get to a safer place than the flight line.
As they were flying back home, the sun was rising. Every airplane that we had sent forward from the base to participate, Chief and I got to go outside and see them land. And that was a pretty cool moment. I kind of wish I could have gone out there and given them big hugs and all that, but as we talked about, things were still moving forward with what happens next. How are we prepared for, the incoming after that? And so you talk about things that make you feel relieved as a person who cares about the folks you command. That was awesome.
But I can remember Scar just had a really human moment with her. I gave her a high five and she just like held onto my hand for a second. Like you just tell she was like happy to be back. So yeah, I'll always remember that.
Called my mom, told her, hey, you're gonna see some stuff on the news. I want you to know I'm okay. And then I immediately called my brother and I'm like, you see that? That was me.
Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11.
The F-16s did this. Like we did this thing. We obviously had other aircraft that were involved, and a lot of the other aircraft are the only ones that kind of get talked about. And Cash alluded to it, like this is an old aircraft, but it's still doing the thing. It's still doing the mission. It's an extremely capable fighter, and I think credit needs to be given to the aircraft itself. Like it is a very capable fighter, and we need to acknowledge that it was part of this mission.
When America asked, like the Air Force answered. And that's like a big bumper sticker statement, right? When America asked, the Air Force answered, and it did exactly what it needed to do. It got through the fog and friction of war, because things happen. It all rests on that trust and capability of our airmen, and I'm just unbelievably proud of them. And I think it was an amazing experience. And when we left there, I told them, thanks for just letting me be part of this amazing adventure we went along on.